Hello everyone, it is the first week of April. This is Melissa with The Creative Season. I've been continuing to walk and view all the beauty and blooms and blossoms on the American River Trail, and this week we're painting the tree blossoms. I've seen just some beautiful works of art on these trees, and so as the leaves are exploding, I am painting some blossoms this week. So just a little bit of splatter art, a couple of colors. Really, I love this sketch because it shows the exuberance of spring just exploding everywhere, as well as the beauty of the blossoms. I love how they're so delicate. Just a bit of pink, grab your brown, yellow, blue. We take about 15 minutes to create this really lovely watercolor sketch. I hope you love it. Hi everyone. Well, it's another beautiful week. Spring is continuing to show up, and this week I have been, again, lots of walking on the trail over the American River Trail over where I live, and so I have just decided to sketch out some of the blossoms on the tree. So the trees are now, the leaves are coming up, but there's still some really beautiful blossoms with just like this pop of pink. And so I thought that's what we're going to paint this week. I have about a 9x6, it might be a little bit bigger, piece of paper. You can see the splatters here. This was a piece of paper that I had used for covering up another piece of watercolor paper when I was doing some splatter art. So I just like to incorporate, and again, not just use all the supplies and then kind of just incorporate the splatters into it because there are a lot of greens and yellows, which is what we're going to be using today. The other thing I wanted to point out, the pop of color is pretty vibrant because everything is just kind of green and brown right now on the trails, and then you get a little bit of color. So I was playing with some colors. This was like a red and a gamboge, which was just too bright. So I ended up coming over and just using a permanent pink and a cadmium yellow, and then letting them blend in together. And so I think that's what we're going to use today. So if you have some cadmium yellow, permanent pink, and then greens, you're going to want the cool greens, like permanent green, hooker's green, and a brown. I have a raw umber that I'm going to be using and mixing it with a little bit of burnt sienna this morning because the twigs on the branches are pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead, and I actually think I'm going to start with let's see if I can get my colors here. I'm going to go ahead and just work on the beautiful petals. They're not, because they're these beautiful blossoms. Petals is not the right word. They're really the blossoms, and they are kind of a bright pink. And yet, it's really interesting because, let me come in a little bit closer, and then I'll come out. On the ends of like their little stringy thingamajiggers, and I don't even quite know the right word. It's definitely the part of the bloom too where all the bees and the birds are coming in, right, and picking things up. And then I need to make sure I don't put my water into my coffee because I can see myself doing that. So anyways, it's really very pretty. And then they almost at the ends of them, they have these little color where the pollen is. I think it's kind of yellowish pink. So I'm going to go ahead and put down the pink, and then I'm going to pick up some yellow, and I'm going to go ahead in here and just really add it together. And the actual tendrils that are coming out are white. They're pretty white. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a very watered down pink, like very watered down. And I need to clean off my palette again because I think I got some red mixed in with my pink, which is just gonna mess everything up. So I have some pink over here that I've separated, and just almost going a super light going down here. Okay, see, we're just gonna go super light, and then I'm gonna take up here, and on the actual petals, or the blossom is what I'm really is a blossom, I'm going to go ahead and just add in a little bit more. I definitely want a little bit more depth of color here. Going to pick up, and this is maybe where I will add just a bit more of the cadmium yellow because while it is a pink, there just is a bit of warmth to it. I've got a bug flying around. And you know, as the weather changes, I think with all the moisture in the air, if the sun is out, I am definitely starting to see more bugs. I don't know if you are in your area. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to let the color really run its magic here. So now that we have those, I'm going to go ahead and start. I will pull this back again And I'm thinking I'm going to go with the brown because this is definitely one of those paintings where I don't want things to mix too much. Not yet. With some of the green, we will add some yellow because it is a warm green on these beautiful trees. But I want to go ahead. I don't want like the brown and the pink to mix for sure. I don't want my stems to be mixing with the leaves, for example. And it was really interesting as I was observing these beautiful branches because they're almost just a mix of almost this chaotic sense of branches and twigs. And you can see too where some branches have broken off, right, with all the storms. And I was even trying to sketch a little bit of that in. And you can see where there's new growth. There's just new growth everywhere. And again, we had so many storms and so much wind this year where things were breaking all over the place. And now it's as if the growth is coming in and it's just like this explosive growth everywhere, chaotic, explosive growth, which is very much what spring is, right? This incredible time of awakening and growing and explosion everywhere. And lots of, I just love the word awakening. That's a word that I've been thinking about this month, and a name of a new collection, a new series that's coming out, of just a sense of awakening. And I think that's so many parallels to our own seasons of our lives too, where if you've gone through, it doesn't even have to be a hard time, although that can certainly cause things, you know, really the joy of spring, but just a long season, maybe monotony or responsibility or difficulty or just like disappointment. Like we can just go through seasons, I think, where you go through disappointment after disappointment. And okay, I'm going to pick up yellow now. And you almost kind of get used to it and you're just kind of accepting of it. And then comes the spring. And then comes the spring. And I think sometimes we can do things to initiate a spring season in our lives. And sometimes it just surprises us, you know. There's so much we don't have control over. Okay, so I am laying down the yellow first because this is kind of part where I want to create that sense of a warmer leaves, especially in the leaves that are more higher up towards the sun, right? And I'm going to pick up the permanent green now, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start letting it play and work in here and just do its magic. Still letting some of the yellow shine through, or the white. I'm not coloring it in. I am going around. You can see right here, and I can pull this in a little bit, where I was just even adding with the pen a little bit of detail because some of those leaves have just a bit of a rugged edge, and you can always do this afterwards too. Just some of the fun details we can do when we're adding on the paint or the pen before or after. And you can start to see where really the merging, right, of the colors. It's just beautiful. If you don't have permanent green, Hooker's green is going to be a lovely color too. I have a Hooker's green medium. I think there's medium, light, and dark. The dark is pretty dark. So this is a bit of that Hooker's green right in there. And this is, I believe this is a medium hue. Sometimes I forget once it goes on my palette which hue it is. I believe this one's medium, and this looks really, really nice, and I can always add in. I'm going to go back to my permanent green, coming back in now, and I'm going to go ahead and the paint does tend to dry, so if you want the watercolor to blend, maybe you can see I didn't do the bottom leaves because I knew I wasn't going to get to them before it had already started to dry a bit. And those leaves kind of are kissing, aren't they? So the paint is merging, and that is just fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, move this back up just a little bit. You can see where it's really coming along. I think to bring it together, I'll probably do a little bit of a wash of yellow in here, but let's go ahead and we'll finish up these leaves. So down here, something different. I'm going to go ahead and add in some green, and then I'm going to put in some yellow in the middle. Coming back here, this one has it's wrapping itself around the branch, so I'm just really carefully going to go all the way through here and then move that around. And you know, I love just the practice of painting every week. When I was looking at the YouTube channel and what I wanted to do with it this year and looking back on the past year, I think one of the benefits for me has just been being really consistent with trying some new things, but just painting consistently. It can be so easy with anything that we want to do, but it's not urgent to do. It can just kind of go on the back burner, and all of a sudden it's been a month. Okay, I'm gonna let a little yellow in here. Or 2 months go by or longer, and something about just consistently practicing something, right? Continuing to just grow in an area. And it just doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. I often say that I'm going to grab some darker green here. I'm going to create a little bit of a sense of one of my leaves. For example, this one I know it was kind of bent, so I'm going to show that bentness by just adding the color, but just painting in the margins of life. And all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like a lot. Creating in the margins of life, you've gained a skill. You've written a book. You've completed the cookbook for your family of all your family recipes. You know, all of a sudden you are excellent at photography. You've finished that project that you never really thought you were ever going to do just by doing a little bit at a time. Okay, I'm going to come over here too, where we're going to have a little bit more shadowing, right? Where it's darker. And just move that around. That's looking nice. Over here, I'm just going to dab in some darker color down here as well. Okay, this is looking really lovely. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do, we're going to add a little bit more pink. Just a hint, because I just really want those to pop. Right around here. There we go. And then I'm going to come back around. I'm going to just pick up some yellow. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and just do a little bit of a wash. Just not even all the way around, but just a little bit. Just almost maybe hinting at the beautiful spring sunshine, right? That looks really, really nice. I'm going to come in so you can see that a little bit more. And you can see it's not tons. You can certainly wait for the whole thing to dry if you wanted to come back and do this a little bit more. But again, I'm just going to move this around just a little bit of yellow to pull out some of the color in the blossoms. You can always just get your paint wet after putting yellow and then just move that around so we're not dousing it in yellow. Also just kind of adds to the movement, right? I put just a little bit of yellow in there. And this looks really nice. Now I just realized I want a little bit more green to attach my blossom to the branch. That would be good, right? And this one down here too. Okay, so they are now attached, adding a little bit more darker area to where I know there's some shadowing. I love this. This is really pretty. I wasn't quite sure how that might turn out because the blossoms are so delicate, but I think that looks really, really lovely. So here are spring flowering blossoms, our budding blossoms off a tree, and right off of a tree off the American River Trail. And I will be back next week with another, some more flowers that I'm finding, some more blossoms and beauty that we have right in my backyard. So I hope you too, as you're going out this week, you start to see all the beauty. I'm sure you already are, and take some pictures, paint your own pictures of the gorgeous natural beauty that is popping up everywhere now that spring is starting to peek out. I will talk to you guys soon. Have an absolutely beautiful week.